In 2020, the FBI reported a 400% increase in cyber crimes, in part because of the increase of people working from home. So more and more people are wondering, should they invest in cyber insurance? Joining Morning Rush now is Vice President of Exiger and former Department of Homeland Security Assistant Secretary Matt Hayden. Good morning to you. Also, Tom Reagan at Marsh, which is a company that sells cyber insurance. Good morning to you both. Let's begin with you, Matt. Big question here. How should businesses be tackling this issue? And what are some practices that people and businesses should follow to avoid this situation to begin with?
So preparation is key. What we're talking about is making sure that businesses take into the basic cyber hygiene and implement a plan with their teams and across the board to take care of it. So we're talking about multi-factor authentication. We're talking about having good backups. And then the human element, which is key. We're talking about training staff that if you get an email that looks suspicious, don't click on it. That these elements are necessary to keep that protection layer, because if you don't protect your entity, your business, you are connected to every other business digitally in this world as well. And we need that collective defense. We actually need every mom and pop all the way up to Fortune 500 company to really improve their cybersecurity hygiene so that liability of a breach isn't going to be as great across the board or for any one entity. So that's where we start, is building up those basic practices and moving forward into more advanced technology and techniques and some of the protections for mitigating risk that insurance provides.
Tom, let's go ahead and go to you now. What do you think the benefits of investing in cybersecurity insurance are to begin with? Because we all know that just because you file a claim, it doesn't necessarily, that claim can be denied. So it's not necessarily fail-proof here.
Well, yeah, nothing's foolproof, and I think that's the overall message. You know, Matt's exactly right, that you need to be prepared, but prepared for what? I think organizations increasingly need to be prepared to be more resilient. Cyber events are unfortunately likely inevitable for many organizations. There's just too many things moving too quickly, and in this digital environment, organizations are constantly online. So we talk about preparation. What we're really talking about is preparing to respond, building that cyber resilience, and cyber insurance is critical to that. Organizations get a lot of benefit, not just from the financial recovery, but also from the expertise of the cyber insurance infrastructure that helps them get ready to respond to an event, and then during the actual consequence provides the guided expertise that helps them actually respond and get their business back up and running.
And we're talking a lot about businesses, and sorry to interrupt you there, but what about individuals? How can individuals protect themselves?
Well, I think it's the same thing Matt talked about, cyber hygiene. I think it's preparing for the inevitable, that things are going to happen to individuals. And, you know, that's okay, because unfortunately, it's a hyper-connected world and we're reaping a lot of benefits. So I think having good backups, avoiding password reuse is absolutely critical. But making sure that you've got a resilient strategy and potentially looking to recovery from things like identity theft or identity theft coverage, which often comes with a credit card or a homeowner's insurance, can be really critical.
So, Matt, the million-dollar question here is should individuals buy cyber insurance?
And just like it was stated, with our identity protection plans, there are new security plans that are added to those. And that gives you that added benefit to shelter that cost when ransomware comes your way. So we hear from a lot of individuals that are small business owners, as well as individuals themselves outside of the business community, that when this ransomware hits, your systems are down to the extent that you're going to need replacement equipment or replacement services. And that's a challenge that they're going to have to look at. And that is where these payments come in handy.
And what are the premiums for cyber insurance? Because I understand it's not exactly cheap. Right? I mean, it's pretty expensive.
Well, it's definitely more expensive than it used to be, but it's more expensive than it used to be because it's working. I think that's part of the big challenge here, is that we're living in a time of unprecedented cyber attacks. It really is a ransomware epidemic. And so costs are going up, but the costs are going up because insurance carriers are paying more and more claims. Hopefully we are getting to this side. We're definitely starting to see some indications in the fourth quarter that things might get a little bit better, but they're far from good. And so that really just drives home the value of the product and the coverage. Organizations need not only the financial protection, but as Matt highlighted, that blend of services, the things that bring together the ability to help you recover, not just to pay for your losses after an event.
What is your take on this, gentlemen? I mean, what should businesses do if they find themselves in this situation? Should they be paying off criminals if they're hit with a ransomware attack? Because they are setting a precedent. How can they handle this?
So right now, the advice of the U.S. government is don't pay. The challenge you have is that with every payment into this network, you're growing a criminal enterprise. There's sanctions against paying for certain elements and certain entities. So paying that ransom is never a policy objective. Now, that to be said, there are going to be cases in which there are certain critical infrastructure partners that if they're locked out of their system and payment is the only option, there's an audience for that. At the same time, what we're finding is that these ransomware groups are targeting critical infrastructure in a way we haven't seen before. So it's, as you mentioned, Colonial Pipeline and other critical sectors. They're also going after the food sector and several other different elements of American society that are critical on a minute-by-minute basis, not a be back in 2 weeks basis.
Yeah, and cyber attacks are up by 93% in the meantime, so it is definitely a big, big issue. Matt Hayden and Tom Reagan, we appreciate your time today. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Well, we're almost at the